In 3, 2, and 1. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We are the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko with you here, along with Tariq Spence, WDKX. How you doing, Tariq?
Doing great. Enjoying The Last Dance and last couple of episodes.
I thought the last two were my favorite of them so far. The 7, 8, very good. Pat Duffy.
Oh, yeah.
How you doing, man? What are you wearing? That's very special.
I love this. Well, I like the idea of the sweater. It's the Amerks Frozen Frontier outdoor game jersey they wore a couple of years ago. What a great event that was. Combination of the Red Wings and the Amerks. And, you know, in honor of the terrible, terrible news we got this week that we'll, I'm sure, talk about later in the show here, Bill.
Yeah, very good. Well, look, let's start off, Tariq, and talk a little baseball. They floated out a plan to open the season in July. What do you think of it?
Smart move if you can get the players to all agree to go in and do that. 82 games, I like it. Interleague play, okay. I'm good with that. 14 teams making postseason. Canceled All-Star. Nobody's going to miss it. They just want baseball. Universal DH, though. I kind of look forward to that. So, I mean, with this season, with baseball, with any other sport, if you're going to play, this is the most exploratory you can get right now. I mean, you're just happy to have baseball if you can have it.
They sort of backed off from that plan where they were going to do 3 geographical leagues, though. I was kind of disappointed because, while I'm not sure that I was all in on that, Pat, I thought it was different enough to at least talk about.
Yeah, but, I mean, look, there's enough different, as Tariq just brought up. Like, you do realize what's happening, right? Major League Baseball is making the tweaks that the general, not diehard fan has wanted for years and years and years. You have a shorter season. You have a universal designated hitter. You're going to have wider rosters, which is going to mean more players, which is going to mean more specialties. I mean, this is what baseball is going to look like 5 years from now permanently. This isn't by mistake. They're not doing it just because of what's going on with coronavirus. They're using the pandemic as an excuse to change the game, and I don't think it's a terrible idea.
Yeah, you know, I tend to agree with that feeling. I don't see anything in there except for the DH, which I think is really a minor tweak when you get right down to it, Tariq, that they're going to keep. They're not going to take a shorter schedule. The expanded rosters will cost them money in a full season, and they're doing that only because they won't have a minor league season. What do you see here worth keeping?
I mean, I like a good portion of it. I do like the shorter season. I think the season is too long. I've been saying that for years. I'd like to see more teams make the playoffs or just make it a quicker postseason where we go back to the way it was before. Top 2 teams from either division. Realignment. I'd like to see realignment if there's possible. There was some talk of having the Mets and the Yankees in the same sort of division. That would be interesting. But, I mean, right now, I think, the concern here is that you don't want to cancel the whole season. So explore anything you want. I don't think they're going to have fans in the stands for these games anyway. Explore it any which way you want so you can get some type of season before this is all, past us and you lose that window before fall gets here.
All that said, it was kind of a bad look that they start, with an unemployment rate that's soaring in this country, that they start arguing about who's going to get what share of what.
Yeah. Yeah, well, players are not going to win this. Players are not going to win that.
Well, hold on, though. I mean, you look, players aren't going to win it. Who are you going to put out there, right? Like, I mean, I think the players have more power in this situation, optics aside. What are you going to do? You're going to throw out minor leaguers that have been training even less with less money to trade? Like, the owners might be kind of over a barrel on this one. I think that the players get a better shake than you think up front there, Tariq.
I'm worried about the overall optics of it all. I mean, you're going to have some places starting to reopen now. For a lot of people out there, they're like, hey, and I don't make this comparison. There has been a lot of baseball players that have been compared to going to war and then coming back and playing baseball. I think this is totally different. I think this has to do with these players and their families and safety and a higher population. So I'm not going to put it on that pedestal. But a lot of people are kind of like, I mean, you go back and play. Go back and play. I need you to go back and play. So go back and play. And a lot of these players are in a different mindset now than they were back then.
Pat, to close this out, I think a subject probably near and dear to your heart is when the NHL was facing a similar situation due to a work stoppage and they came back with a 50-game schedule and how good and how important those hockey games seemed then. It's a similar situation.
100%. Like, as much as I hated those strike years, like, that season was bananas because every freaking game mattered. And going even further than that, let's say they adopt an 82-game season over the amount of time that they normally play in a regular season. Now you have players getting days off. You're having injuries heal. You have the potential for much better, more entertaining baseball. Think about that.
As long as we have something. We are the Rochester Press Box, talking the Buffalo Bills schedule next.
Original Bay Goodman Pizza, located on the corner of North Winton at Browncroft. There are 3 ways to get the original Bay & Goodman delivery. Go to baygoodman.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us in the Rochester Press Box. Talking Bill's schedule, Pat, first of all, I thought it's kind of funny. The 5 hardest schedules by won-loss percentage that were given in the NFL, 4 of those 5 are the AFC East.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, you have the NFC West that you're playing this season, which is going to be super freaking hard. But then again, you have the respect given to the Patriots, which makes the rest of the division schedule hard. What is nice, if you're a Bills fan, is that, we are tied for the 5th hardest schedule. The only teams in front of us are the Patriots, Jets, and Dolphins, right? So in the division, in theory, we have the easiest schedule. But, I mean, Bill, do you look too much into those strength of schedule preseason rankings anyway?
I've never seen anybody actually at the end of the season go back and look at who, how they line up. And you're right, because you really can't tell. But Tariq, the whole division, I think it's safe to say, is going to have a real problem this year.
Well, I mean, 2 Super Bowl teams, both of them. You throw in Seattle and the Steelers, and it sounds like, and you're going to beat each other up because everybody's trying to win that division. So it's going to be interesting. I guess, Duffy, I'll ask you, do you even think, other than possibly the Bills, any other team making it out of the AFC East?
Wild card, no. I mean, no, I don't even think Buffalo has a shake at a wild card. Look, you're getting people predicting 12-4, whatever. It's entirely feasible that a 9 or 10 win team wins this division because of what you just brought up and beating up on each other. And I know that the rest of the division is down right now. I'm not worried about the Patriots. I'm not worried about the Dolphins. I'm a little bit worried about the Jets. The Jets, as bad as they were last year, and as much as I think Adam Gase is untalented, Darnold could take a step forward, and you're going to have the injuries that they dealt with last year coming back and being all taken care of. If there's one team that I would be worried about, winning a game better than us and making the playoffs with 10 wins, it would be New York over New England or Miami.
It's like you said, I think Vegas's number for the Bills was 9, and they're favored in the AFC. So again, they're saying 9-7 wins the division. You guys looking forward to any game in particular? Is there something out there you really want to see, Tariq?
I'd like to see how they match up against Kansas City. That'd be fun. I mean, you've got, if Sammy Watkins is still there, you got Sammy Watkins there. Sort of this idea of Sammy Watkins saying he wanted to come back to Buffalo and all this good stuff. And of course, they're the champions. They're the best. You know what I mean? Also, Seattle. Seattle would be fun to see Bills go up against Seattle. Last year was kind of that statement year where the Bills beat the Cowboys. This year, I'd just like to see them go up against teams that I know will make the playoffs.
It's on TV. The Vegas game is pretty attractive, I think, Pat.
I like the Vegas game because it'll be on TV. I do like home, primetime Super Bowl champs, but the 13-day stretch that I find most interesting, it's towards the end of the season. The Bills go out to San Francisco and play Monday Night Football against the 49ers. Then they have to fly back home cross-country and play the Steelers Sunday Night Football at home. So you're 2 primetime games back-to-back, a short week against a team in Pittsburgh that's always good and is looking for revenge after knocking them out of the playoffs last season. If there's any part of that schedule that scares me, especially towards the end of the season when those wins are going to become very valuable, those 13 days will tell us exactly what kind of team this Buffalo Bills team is this year.
And to that point, it kind of helps that the bye is on week 11. It's kind of late in the season.
Yeah, you're going to have a nice little stretch run, right, where all your guys, barring horrific injury as I knock on the wood on my desk here, are going to be healthy and ready to go. It's less games you have risk of getting injury before the playoffs. So who would have thought we'd be talking about playoffs before the season? This is great. I'm having fun.
Playoffs. We are the Rochester Press Box, and Like It or Not is next. Here's the Press Box trivia question brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us on the Rochester Press Box. So, like it or not, Tariq, we were talking about the MJ's Last Dance. I thought these two episodes were really good. Like it or not, MJ's brand of leadership.
It is for the alpha. And if you are an alpha and you know anything about anybody who is an alpha, that's exactly what he is. He is one of those that will get in your chest, demand the best out of you. There was a method to the madness. I don't know what he was worried about. This whole thing about, people are not going to like me after this. I'm like, no, they've loved you for years. You know how hard it is to get somebody that you love to hate you? It's not going to happen. So I understand it. Love his leadership. We knew this is exactly who he was. He punched teammates. He got results. And guess what? He's the greatest of all time.
Okay. Punching teammates is one thing. Not allowing Horace Grant to eat food after a bad game is something completely different. That is insane. And the fact that a grown man who was also wearing rec specs, which would have protected his eyes, didn't lunge at Michael Jordan on that plane and say, "You're serious right now?" Like, Tariq, I get what you're saying. And I thought up until I started watching this thing that, I knew his insanity. That's like borderline criminal stuff. Like, if they put him in like a military tribunal, he would be locked away for years and years and years. It violates the Geneva Convention, Tariq.
He is straight up code red. He is the code red of A Few Good Men, and that's what he ordered, and that's the way it was. And why are we going to this whole sort of idea that we've never seen this type of intensity before? Why are we going to this whole idea? Like, I know it's 2020, but this was back in the mid-'90s where they fought just about every week on the court.
Okay, but like punching Isaiah Thomas and like taking away his refrigerator are two very, very different things, Tariq.
You got enough money to get another refrigerator.
Are there other ways of leadership? We obviously have these guys that say, I lead by example and I'm not very vocal. I never quite bought into that. But do we have to do it the way Michael does it to achieve results? And are we kind of like headed in that direction now?
No. I don't think you have to do it the way Michael does it. I think there is this sort of understanding of if you are of this mentality of being the best of the best, I don't mind you going at me, you challenging me to make me better. It rubs people the wrong way that are not in that culture. But Duffy, there are times where people got into your face and it wasn't so much an ego thing as I got to pull the best out of you. And that's the way Michael explained it.
Well, I think the sport has a lot to do with it too, right? Like, you and I, Bill, we all grew up playing different sports. Like, I played basketball and I played hockey. Basketball is the kind of sport where you might have to get in somebody's face because, look, in basketball, a lot of the time, you either have skill or you don't skill, and you don't have skill, and you can train, and you can become a grinder player, but you'll never be to a certain level. Whereas playing hockey, it was more of a lead by example kind of sport because you have your top of the top kind of players, but most guys can say, "This is how I'm going to work. You follow me, you watch me, and that's what we're going to do." And that's what I'm finding the most interesting is basketball is that sport where I'm going to get in your face, I'm going to tell you what to do, and this is how you're going to deal with it. And you compare these athletes from different eras and different sports, like there's no way some of the guys I loved watching growing up playing hockey would have tolerated not getting a Salisbury steak on the plane on the way home.
The last thing on this, I said Jordan for his role as a leader of that team was unapologetic verbally, but I believe that was the sequence that he almost broke down at and said, cut, when he was talking about his role as a leader and whether or not it made him more or less liked. And that kind of surprised me that he was emotional about dealing with that issue, Tariq.
Yeah, he said something to the winning has a price, leadership has a price, and it does. To be honest with you, there's so many outrageous things that people have done throughout the years, from your Bobby Knights to your Bear Bryants to all these other different stories that have come out of how close to the line they were, but it resulted in greatness. And it's interesting. I know people are uncomfortable with it. But I think in the sports world, people who understand it are not uncomfortable with it.
Pat, quickly, like it or not, NASCAR and UFC have begun.
It's going to have to happen eventually. Look, I'm believe it or not, I am not a doctor, so I have no idea whether or not these guys are coming back too soon. But, these seem like the two sports where it's going to be the most easy to socially distance, right? You got two guys in a ring and a couple of trainers. You got guys in cars with their pit crew. We'll keep an eye on this, watch what happens, and then use that to make a decision on baseball, hockey, basketball, and eventually football come September, right?
This is the Rochester Press Box. Unfinished Business is next.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. We are the Rochester Press Box. Time for Unfinished Business. We start with Mr. Duffy.
Video this week on social media emerges of Mike Tyson training video. He looks amazing. And then at the end, he says, I'm back. I'm coming back. Something along those lines. And word on the street is he wants to get tuned up for a couple of charity fights to raise money. And it leads you to believe that eventually he'll get back into actual prize fighting. Normally, I would not buy into any of this gimmicky kind of stuff. I hated McGregor Mayweather. It was the worst thing ever. But I love this, and I'll tell you why. Mike Tyson is George Foreman. In my humble opinion, and you guys know how much I love boxing, Mike Tyson, young Mike Tyson, is the greatest pound-for-pound fighter in the history of boxing. What Cus D'Amato was able to do with him in the mountains of the Catskills, lock him away, he was unstoppable. Small but powerful. Strong but quick. There was no way to defend him. And he lost his way, not because he lost talent, but because he lost his mind. And things happen outside of the ring, and I understand if you feel a certain way about that. But it parallels what happened with George Foreman. Angry young man who just wanted to take on the world, loses his way and leaves the sport and comes back a smarter, wiser gentleman who regains the heavyweight championship. Mike Tyson still has those skills behind him. Mike Tyson has in his mind what Cus D'Amato taught him to do, and now he has the wisdom to do something about it. If Mike Tyson is fighting again, I will be the first one buying that pay-per-view, watching what happens.
Something occurred to me while watching UFC 249 on ESPN. It wasn't the fact that I was actually watching live sports and I was craving it. It was the fact that there were no fans. Now, I knew that going in, but something occurred when I saw there were no fans there. I actually heard everything the coaches were saying to the fighters. I heard everything the commentators were saying that the coaches were saying to the fighters. I understood the sport a little bit more, and I was able to concentrate on that moment in sports. Now, I'm one of those that wants fans live in front of a sporting event, but we can't have that right now. And I understand with this whole pandemic and lack of a vaccine, it may be a year before we actually have fans live in front of a sporting event. And I'm cool with that as long as we get a vaccine. But I'm also good with trying something different, actually concentrating on the sports. I got a nice TV. It's 4K or whatever the heck is coming out with this brand new TVs, and it gives me great quality, nice, strong internet. Okay, all right, I have sports. Of course, there's not going to be the crowds that are going to be cheering like I want, and there's nothing better than going to a live sporting event. But for 1 year, 360 days, until we can possibly get a vaccine, no fans, no problem with me.
When I first came to Rochester, we had two professional sports teams. We had the Amerks playing hockey, we had the Red Wings playing baseball. Rochester had also developed a reputation of being sort of a training ground for other sports who were trying to get some traction. We had multiple teams playing men's soccer, indoor, outdoor. We had women's soccer. We had indoor and outdoor lacrosse. We had two Arena League football teams. We even had a professional men's fast-pitch softball team that lasted for a few years. Well, teams come and teams go, but we've always been about the Amerks and the Red Wings. They played continuously since 1956 together in this town until the year 2020. And obviously we know what's happening now. And even though we saw this coming, it comes to us as a shock that the Amerks had their season canceled and that the Red Wings in all likelihood won't play one at all. There is a silver lining to all of this. When sports returns and we get to the other side of this, and of course we certainly will, there's going to be a new appreciation for what sports does for us. And as far as our local teams, hopefully they'll be appreciated a little bit more. That's a Rochester Press Box. Thank you for joining us. Tariq, great as always. Thank you, man. Good point about watching sports on TV right now. You're right. It's really different, and it's interestingly different.
There's a reason why we bought these big screen TVs. Let's enjoy them for a year.
Pat? Nice uniform.
Hey, right back at you, boys. Way to go.
Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.